to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, where the gentle rhythm of each word is meant to guide you into a state of calm, quiet repose. This evening you are invited to settle into a world of emerald shores and softly lapping waves, a whispered tale of the Irish Sea that promises a tender drift into slumber. Take a moment now to settle your body into the most comfortable position you can find. Allow your eyelids to grow heavy and let the tension release from your brow. Notice the steady rise and fall of your chest and feel the soft expansion of your rib cage with every deep breath. In through your nose, hold for a second or two, and then exhale through your mouth, letting go of any heaviness that clings to your muscles or mind. Allow yourself to sink further into comfort, as though you were easing into the warm embrace of an old friend. Relax your jaw, loosen your shoulders, and let the day's busyness drift like a gentle tide rolling out to sea. As you listen to this story, you may picture the emerald coastline, feel the breeze upon your face, and sense the timeless call of whispering waves. So, gently prepare to journey along a coastline sprinkled with legends, and let the hush of the sea lull you into rest. Far from the pull of modern lights and ceaseless chatter, there once was a quiet isle off the Irish Sea where the water glimmered with shades of green and silver under the moon's watchful eye. On this isle, the nights were calm, the days bright with the scent of salt and wildflowers. Soft breezes carried the songs of distant gulls, and the gentle hush of each rolling wave offered a serene backdrop to the land's timeless rhythm. Here lived a simple fisherman named Rowan. Each dawn, he would stroll down to the shore, nets in hand, boots sinking into the cool, wet sand. But what made Rowan stand apart was not his daily routine or his home by the sea. It was the gentle curiosity in his eyes, as though he could hear echoes from the depths, echoes that spoke of an ancient magic woven into the waters around him. Rowan's days began with a faint glow of early sunlight edging across the sky. He rose from his small cottage thatched with golden reeds, the walls adorned with smooth sea stones. Outside, he would pause, tipping his head to feel the breeze, to test the air's subtle flavors of brine and heather. A special hush lingered on the isle at that early hour, as if the world was freshly awakened yet still caught in the gentle hold of slumber's final notes. The fisherman always lingered for a moment there, inhaling deeply, letting the crisp freshness fill his lungs and heart. When he finally reached the shore, Rowan's boat, a modest craft carved from sturdy oak, waited where the shallows touched the sand. Salt, worn lines ran along its edges, and the paint had faded from bright green to a softer hue, a testament to countless tides. He would push the vessel into the water, feeling a childlike thrill when the ocean accepted it with a soft, sighing lap. gentle precision, Rowan climbed aboard, set his nets, and began to row. His long, even strokes carried him across the glassy surface, each dip of the oar punctuating the quiet dawn. On those waters, time seemed to stretch into a languid flow. Rays of morning sun caught the gentle waves, glittering like shards of emerald. Seabirds soared overhead, calling greetings into the breeze. It was in those moments, beneath the endless sky, that Rowan felt a kinship with the sea, a silent conversation passing between them, an ancient language of memory and hope. Sometimes, when the stillness reigned, a playful seal would pop its head above the water, regarding him with bright eyes as if to say hello. Other mornings he might see a passing dolphin arch gracefully, leaving rings of shimmering water in its wake. Everything about the sea felt connected, as if every wave and breath of wind was part of a single great soul. After the day's haul, sometimes generous, sometimes meager, Rowan would row home. The nets heavy with glistening fish were scarcely filled. Yet his heart remained light either way, for there was always enough to see him through. Along the path back to his cottage, tufts of wild lavender swayed in the breeze. Little driftwood sculptures, sculpted by nature's patient hand, lay scattered among the pebbles. And sometimes, if the day was warm, Rowan would pause just to stand among the dunes, letting the sea's airy breath wash over him, carrying away the strain of his work. Despite the routine, every evening held a spark of hushed anticipation. Over the years, Rowan had heard the island elders whisper of mystical lights that occasionally appeared near the horizon, glowing faintly green beneath moonlight. They were said to be ancient visitors, spirits of the deep, or perhaps lost bits of magic dancing across the water's surface. They called them the Emerald Glimmers. Those who claimed to have seen them swore they flickered just for a heartbeat, then vanished. And so, each night as dusk draped the sky in pastel violets and blues, Rowan would sit outside his cottage, eyes gazing seaward, a patient sentinel waiting for a sign from those wandering lights. One evening, after a day touched by gentle breezes and easy currents, Rowan took his usual seat upon a smooth rock near the shore. The sun had set in a blaze of peach and amber, fading now to a deepening twilight. A slender silver moon rose, scattering its reflection across the waves. While the hush of approaching night grew, the fisherman felt a soft tug in his heart, as though something new stirred in the air. He waited for quite some time, watching the water shift from turquoise to a silken moonlit gray. Then it happened, a tiny flash of green at the edge of his vision. Startled, Rowan blinked, not quite sure if he had imagined it. But then came another faint flicker, a brush of emerald fire illuminating the distance. He leaned forward, breath catching, a slow beat of his pulse amplifying in his ears. The flicker faded, then glowed again. 3 soft pulses of green light shimmering in the distance like a breath from another realm. Rowan's heart swelled with quiet awe. The stories he'd heard all his life about the emerald glimmers might truly be real. In that moment, the hush of the night seemed to deepen, as if all creation was holding a gentle breath. Then, just like that, the lights vanished. Though the darkness reclaimed the horizon, Rowan felt no disappointment. Instead, he felt a comforting warmth spread through him, a gentle promise that perhaps something extraordinary lived beneath the waves, waiting to be rediscovered. He lingered there a while, letting the moonlight and the hush of rolling waters lull him into a peaceful reverie before he finally made his way to bed. Next morning brought a soft drizzle that misted the grasses and polished every leaf. Droplets sparkled on Rowan's windows. A muted hush lay over the isle. He gathered his fishing gear and headed once more to the beach. The sea's surface glimmered, a watery mirror reflecting pale gray skies. Tiny ripples spread from the prow of his boat as he rode into the gentle rain. Everything was calm, the pitter-patter of water on water playing a soothing lullaby. As he dropped his nets, Rowan found himself wondering about the sea's hidden treasures. Were there truly lights that danced in the deep? Did they appear just once a generation, or did they flicker out there every night, unseen except by the rare soul who happened to be looking at precisely the right moment? Rowan's questions expanded in his mind like ripples on the water. By midday, the drizzle subsided, and the sun broke through swirling clouds. Its warmth glistened on the wet boat rails, and Rowan took a long, relaxing breath of ocean air. Drawing in his lines to check for his catch, he found the fish especially lively. Their scales reflected tiny rainbows in the midday light. Could these shimmering fish be touched by the same magic that lit the sea at night? He smiled at the notion, imagining the lights dancing underwater, weaving through shoals of fish like living ribbons of green luminescence. The thought brought him a serene joy. After securing his catch, Rowan steered his boat back to shore, gently humming a tune his grandmother had once taught him, a lullaby about the sea's eternal mysteries. That afternoon, Rowan made his way up a winding path toward the island's village. It was a small cluster of stone cottages and narrow lanes, where neighbors often shared bread, stories, and occasional laughter around a peat fire. At the village well, Rowan met a wise older woman named Neve, her hair silvery, like the moonlight, eyes reflecting countless sunrises. She offered him a nod of greeting and asked about his catch. In return, Rowan hesitated, then whispered about the flickers of emerald light he had seen the previous night. Neve's gaze sharpened with interest. She said that in her youth, she'd heard rumors of these lights but had never seen them herself. Yet her grandmother had once passed down tales of a hidden cove somewhere along the coast where the lights were said to originate. She recalled that only those who approached with genuine reverence and quiet hearts could glimpse the deeper secret behind them. Encouraged by her words, Rowan thanked Neve and carried on his way, weaving through the narrow lanes until he reached a small stone building near the shore, where the village archives and local knowledge were kept. It was a modest place, mostly containing records of births and harvest tallies, but sometimes scraps of old legends had found their way into its shelves. He explored dusty tomes and rolls of parchment, scanning for any mention of the emerald glimmers. Eventually, he stumbled upon a faded page that described an ancient tradition. Once a year, under a thin crescent moon, a gentle green glow might be seen on the horizon. It was said to herald the presence of spirits or guardians from an older age, watchers over the isle who would only reveal themselves when the sea felt at perfect peace. For a long moment, Rowan's heart fluttered. Could it be that he had witnessed something rarely seen by mortal eyes? A phenomenon older than the memory of the village? He carefully replaced the scroll, mindful not to damage its fragile edges. As he left the archives, his mind simmered with wonder. Outside, the afternoon sun began its descent, casting long shadows through the narrow lanes. A hush of possibility and anticipation fluttered in his chest. He returned to his cottage, determined to keep a watchful vigil each night, hoping to see the lights once more. The following evenings brought a pattern of patient observation. After finishing his daily routine, Rowan would sit on the shore, resting against a smooth boulder, scanning the horizon as the sky shifted from lilac to midnight blue. On some nights, the sea remained dark and quiet, and he would eventually head home with a soft sigh. On others, he would notice a faint glow, a suggestion of green shimmering beneath the moon's glow. Too subtle to be sure whether it was simply a trick of starlight or the real magic. Nonetheless, Rowan found the ritual soothing. The act of pausing each night, listening to the waves, feeling the evening breeze, and connecting with nature's gentle rhythms lent a soft grace to his days. Then, one moonlit night, an unmistakable flicker of green appeared like a gentle heartbeat on the dark horizon. This time, it did not vanish entirely. Instead, it glowed with a delicate steadiness, beckoning with a quiet invitation. Rowan rose, his breathing calm, yet filled with a trembling excitement. Carefully, he launched his little boat onto the calm waters. Soft waves cradled the craft as he guided it toward that mysterious light. The stars shimmered overhead like a scattered handful of diamond dust, and the moon's reflection created a silvery path on the sea's surface. The fisherman followed that path, his pulse sinking to the slow, steady dip of the oars. The hush of the ocean surrounded him, broken only by the gentle swish of the boat's passage and the soft sigh of the sea breeze. As Rowan drew nearer, he discovered that the glow emanated from beneath the water's surface. He let the boat drift until it floated above the faint green luminescence, illuminating the sea from within like a secret world. Peering over the side, he saw faint shapes drifting below, swirling ribbons of light that curled and spiraled gracefully. They ebbed and flowed in a rhythm that felt almost like slow, deliberate breathing. Rowan's heart thumped softly. He sensed that these lights weren't merely random flashes of phosphorescence. They felt alive, intimately connected to the pulse of the ocean. The boat gently rose and fell with the waves, and for a time he simply gazed into that soft, emerald glow, lulled by the slow dance of fluid shapes beneath him. Upon returning to shore in the earliest hours before dawn, Rowan felt as though he had visited a dream. He quietly moored his boat, then made his way to his cottage. Slipping into bed, the fisherman slept deeper than he had in years, his thoughts carried along by that luminous vision. In the days that followed, he could not shake the memory of the dancing lights. He found himself humming that old lullaby more often, noticing subtle details of the land and sea he had overlooked before. The hush of the tide, the warm scent of the sun on wet sand, the gentle swirl of wind through the heather. Everything seemed more vibrant, touched by the memory of that soft green glow. One late afternoon, Rowan took a walk beyond his usual fishing cove, following a winding path that skirted the rocky cliffs. The path led to a hidden place most villagers rarely bothered to visit. High grass whispered around him, and the distant cry of gulls accompanied him. As he carefully navigated the rocky steps, the sea spread out before him in an expanse of shifting turquoise and foam. The air smelled of salt and damp stone. Eventually the path opened onto a small, secluded beach, embraced on three sides by towering cliffs that rose like ancient guardians. The tide gently lapped the shore, leaving behind swirling lines of seaweed and foam. In this quiet cove, the golden afternoon light reflected off pale sand and the surf's lace-like edges. Rowan felt as if he had stepped into another realm. A hush lay over the area, broken only by the soothing melody of water on stone. Walking along the sand, he noticed how the cliffs were streaked with curious veins of green stone shimmering in the angled light. The sight resonated with something deep inside him, reminding him of the emerald flickers beneath the sea. There, pressed against a rocky outcrop, Rowan found a small pool left behind by the outgoing tide. Tiny shells adorned the edges, and in its center, sunlight danced across the clear water. He knelt down, brushing his fingertips across the surface. The water was cool, rippling softly, as if greeting him. Over the next few weeks, Rowan returned to that cove whenever time allowed. He would sit on a flat rock, feeling the sun warm his back, and simply listen to the hush of waves lapping gently to the wind, sighing across the cliffs, and to a subtle hum that seemed to emanate from the earth itself. In these solitary moments, Rowan felt connected to something immeasurably old and unhurried, a timeless presence that neither demanded nor judged, only welcomed. And with each passing day, the fisherman carried a sense of reverence back to his modest cottage. He continued to fish and provide for his simple life, but an extra layer of peace surrounded him, like a soft cloak. When the next crescent moon rose low over the horizon, Rowan decided to slip away under the cover of night, venturing to that secluded cove. He brought a small lantern, though its light was gentle compared to the moon's pale glow. Standing on the sand, he inhaled the crisp night air. Then, letting the lantern's flame diminish to a low flicker, he stood quietly, allowing his eyes to adjust to the delicate darkness. Cliffs glowed faintly in moonlight, and the sea itself sparkled as small waves rolled in. For a time there was nothing but starlight and the sea's lullaby. Eventually a soft shimmer caught his eye near the water's edge. Approaching carefully, Rowan saw that the wet sand seemed to glimmer with flecks of pale green, as if the starlight had found a new hue. The effect was subtle, nothing like the luminous currents beneath the ocean's surface, but it offered a sweet echo of that same gentle glow. Bending down, Rowan touched the sand. Tiny droplets of water glistened along his fingertips. He paused, letting the delicate moment wash over him, the hush of the night weaving a tapestry of calm. Then looking up, he saw the horizon faintly alight with green. With quiet excitement fluttering in his chest, Rowan made his way back to his little boat, determined to follow that beckoning glow once more. The gentle waves welcomed the small craft, and he set out across the midnight water. The breeze was mild, carrying the faint scent of seaweed and a promise of hidden wonders. As he glided onward, the green shimmer grew stronger, dancing just beneath the surface. Drawing near, Rowan let his boat drift until he floated above a mesmerizing display of lights. This time, they swirled in lazy spirals and arcs, luminous threads weaving a slow ballet. By now, Rowan had learned to remain very still and calm, to simply observe without needing answers. A gentle part of him sensed that these lights were older than memory, a breath of the ocean's secret soul. Lowering his hand over the side of the boat, Rowan trailed his fingers through the water. For a moment, the light seemed to swirl toward him. Curious, the fisherman felt a tender brush against his fingertips. Not a physical touch, but a soft presence, like being greeted by something that recognized kindness. His heart swelled, brimming with a childlike wonder. In that moment, he silently thanked the sea for sharing this gift, for allowing him to witness such a gentle marvel. Rowan spent a while gently rocking in his boat, lulled by the emerald glow, then quietly returned to the shore under the watchful gleam of stars. As the boat touched land, he slipped onto the beach, gazing once more at the shimmering horizon. Even when the lights faded, he felt their echo linger inside him, like a comforting memory or a lullaby that follows you into dreams. He walked home, guided by moonlight, each step soft upon the sandy ground. That night, when he finally rested his head on his pillow, his heart was light, his spirit content. Sleep came easily, wrapping him in a cocoon of peace. A gentle shift came over Rowan's life. Though he still rose early to fish, tended to his chores, and wandered the village paths, he carried an unspoken sense of gratitude that touched each moment with grace. Birds seemed to sing a little sweeter, and each sunrise felt like a renewed promise. The villagers noticed the soft, contented gleam in his eye. When asked about it, Rowan only smiled and said the sea had been generous of late. Yet in private, he cherished the memory of those emerald ribbons beneath the waves and the subtle hush they brought to his mind whenever he recalled them. Over time, word began to spread that Rowan had glimpsed something extraordinary out at sea. Some neighbors whispered that perhaps he had discovered a patch of bioluminescent plankton, while others speculated that an otherworldly phenomenon had chosen him. Occasionally, a curious soul asked Rowan to guide them out in his boat, hoping for a glimpse of that elusive glow. But each time the fisherman gently explained that it was not a spectacle to be chased. One had to wait until the sea offered it freely and to meet it with humility and patience. A few weeks later, Rowan felt the pull to revisit the hidden cove, not simply for the lights, but to sit once again upon that quiet shore. He set off at twilight, the sky still streaked with purples and golds, and arrived just as dusk settled. He placed a small lantern in a nook among the rocks, letting its low flame illuminate a cozy circle of sand. Sitting there, he closed his eyes. The ocean's lullaby swelled around him, each wave sighing gently as it met the shore. In the distance, he could hear the calls of seabirds settling for the night. After a few calming breaths, Rowan opened his eyes to the vast, star-filled sky. The flicker of the lantern cast dancing shadows along the cove's cliffs, merging with moonlight in a soft interplay of light and dark. As the hour grew late, Rowan watched the tide come in, creeping closer, polishing the rocks with its salty caress. He ran his hand across the smooth stone, feeling the cool moisture settle on his palm. The hush of the place was profound, as though it held centuries of secrets. Under that gentle canopy of stars, Rowan felt the boundaries between his heart and the sea dissolve. It was not a lonely feeling, but rather a sense of belonging to something vast and kind, an ancient rhythm that held all creatures in an embrace of equanimity. He caught a faint glimmer out of the corner of his eye, and a small wave washed in, shimmering faintly green as it curled upon the shore. It was only for a heartbeat, but it reminded him that the magic was never far away. Comforted by that thought, Rowan let his lids droop, lulled by the ocean's voice. Memories of the swirling lights drifted through his mind, unhurried and radiant. In that in-between state, neither fully awake nor asleep, he felt the presence of the sea as a gentle guardian, cradling his thoughts. His breaths slowed and his worries dissipated, replaced by a serene acceptance of the present moment. By the time he roused himself, the lantern's flame had nearly extinguished, and the moon had climbed high, bathing the cove in silver. With quiet reverence, he gathered his things and made his way home, soul glowing from the night's communion. In the days that followed, the fisherman kept his routine, but something within him had changed. He treated everyone he met with a softer smile, be they friend or stranger. He performed his tasks with a patient kindness, mindful of each motion and breath. At times he paused to close his eyes and remember the hush of the cove, the swirl of green lights, and the gentle sense of belonging they fostered. The more he remembered, the easier it became to carry that peaceful aura with him throughout the day. Even the gulls seemed to sense his contentment, following him more calmly along the docks, occasionally swooping overhead as if to offer playful company. But as all rhythms go, another season began. The wind turned cooler, carrying the scent of impending autumn across the water. Leaves on the island's sparse trees began to lose their vivid green, shifting into softer shades of gold and russet. The sea, too, changed its temperament, sometimes rising in gentle swells that reminded Rowan of deeper currents stirring far beneath the surface. He continued to fish and watch the sky, patiently waiting for those crescent moon nights. Occasionally he glimpsed faint traces of the glimmers, soft pulses that told him the magic was still there, abiding in the depths, unhurried by the passage of time. One crisp afternoon, while tidying his fishing nets near the shore, Rowan noticed a group of seals basking on the rocks. Their sleek bodies glistened in the pale sun, and they eyed him with casual curiosity. The fisherman smiled, remembering how the seals had been part of this island's tapestry for generations. Legend said they carried messages from the sea's underworld, or sometimes transformed into humans under the cover of certain lunar alignments. Rowan approached them slowly, but they seemed relaxed, unafraid. He crouched a short distance away, feeling an odd sense of kinship with these gentle creatures. As the evening sky grew dusky, Rowan lingered by the shore. The seals, too, remained on the rocks, occasionally dipping into the water and then re-emerging. Their silhouettes against the setting sun lent the scene a peaceful majesty. The fisherman felt an almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere, a whispering hush that suggested the emergence of something unseen. He gazed out to sea and noticed a distant flicker of emerald light. It shimmered faintly, then disappeared. In that moment, one of the seals raised its head, as if acknowledging the same phenomenon. Rowan's heart glowed with warmth. He realized that the sea's enchantment touched not just humans, but all the island's inhabitants. When the sky had fully embraced the night, Rowan set off in his boat once more, guided by the pale moonlight. Calm waters mirrored the luminous sky, and the fisherman's oars created steady ripples along the surface. The hush felt profound, broken only by the rhythmic splash of wood slicing through water. He felt no anxiety, only a gentle anticipation of whatever wonder the sea might share tonight. And as he drifted, the waves seemed to crinkle with an ethereal shimmer, as if invisible fingers were trailing through them, drawing lines of glowing ink. Drawing closer to the heart of that soft radiance, Rowan again witnessed the swirling shapes of green beneath the surface. This time, however, they were more distinct. Long, ribbon-like currents that rose almost to the boat's keel, then disappeared into deeper waters. At one point, it seemed as though a faint shape emerged, a sleek, dolphin-like form outlined in pale green. Rowan could not be certain if it was merely an illusion, but he felt no fear, only a tranquil acceptance. Whatever its reality, the presence was a gift, a further revelation of the ocean's hidden tapestry. The fisherman rested his hands on the boat's edge, letting the slow, rolling waves bring him deeper into a timeless stillness. Eventually the glow diminished, and the horizon returned to its serene, moonlit beauty. Rowan sighed contentedly. There was no sense of loss, only gratitude. The fisherman carefully turned his small craft around and began rowing back to shore. As he went, his oars dipped with a gentle, unhurried rhythm, echoing the lullaby he had come to know so well. The ocean, in all its depths, seemed to whisper that it would always hold secrets both seen and unseen, ready to be shared with those who approached with open hearts. Back at the beach, Rowan pulled the boat onto the sand, secured it, and stood for a moment to watch the lazy dance of the tide. The crescent moon glowed overhead, and the hush of the island enveloped him in a tender stillness. He felt the presence of the sea within him, as though its gentle currents had infused his spirit with each breath and heartbeat. Turning toward his cottage, he began the short walk home, guided by starlight and the echo of emerald dreams. Time flowed on, marked by the shifting tides and the changing moon phases. Rowan's life found new depths of contentment, each day an opportunity to honor the quiet bond he shared with the sea. When storms occasionally raged and the wind howled across the island, the fisherman remained safe in his sturdy cottage. He would light a candle, brew a warm tea, and listen to the distant roar of waves crashing against the cliffs, grateful for shelter. No matter how tumultuous the skies became, he sensed that the serene spirit of the sea waited beneath, unwavering. Eventually the season cycled again, returning to softer winds and longer days. Rowan continued his visits to the hidden cove, always mindful, always patient. Sometimes he beheld the dancing lights, and sometimes he did not. But the frequency mattered less and less. Their memory alone filled him with peace, reminding him that the world was brimming with gentle wonders, visible and invisible, offering comfort to any who paused to notice. And on nights when he needed reassurance, he would slip from his cottage and walk under the moon's glow, letting his feet meet the wet sand, listening for that faint echo of magic that always lived just beyond the horizon. As the years passed, Rowan's gentle experiences became woven into the fabric of the island's folklore. Though he never flaunted his encounters with the lights, the villagers observed the serenity that emanated from his presence, and many surmised that his connection to the sea had revealed to him the quiet secrets of its heart. Even when Rowan grew older, his hair touched with silver, he continued to wander the same shorelines. When asked the reason for his endless devotion, he would simply say that peace and wonder awaited anyone willing to listen to the hush of the waves. Over time, the fisherman's life itself became a soft legend, how a gentle soul befriended the sea, witnessed its emerald heart, and in doing so found deep tranquility. Some said that on certain moonlit nights, if you waited by the shore and opened your heart, you might glimpse a faint flicker of green dancing across the dark waves. Others believed the lights were Rowan's dreams come alive, swirling beneath the sea's surface as an eternal lullaby for the weary. Yet in truth, the sea kept its own counsel, revealing its mysteries when and how it chose, guided by rhythms older than memory. In the twilight of his days, Rowan's pace slowed, but his spirit never lost that childlike joy. Evenings found him seated outside his cottage, face turned toward the horizon. The gentle lines upon his features spoke of a life lived with reverence for nature's wonders. The net he once used every morning was retired, hanging in a corner of his cottage like a woven tapestry of memories. On calm nights, he might still walk to the shore, greet the stars, and place a hand on his faithful little boat, now more symbolic than practical. And sometimes, when the timing was right, the sea graced him with a soft flicker of green along the horizon, like an old friend waving hello. As the quiet years ran their course, Rowan's presence on the island became as comforting as the tides themselves. The villagers, influenced by his demeanor, learned to appreciate the hush of dawn, the subtle glow of dusk, and the gentle grace of living in harmony with nature. Children would gather around him, asking if the stories of shimmering lights were real. Rowan would simply smile and say, "Close your eyes, listen to the sea, and you may find them dancing in your dreams." And so, a sense of calm wonder spread through the little community, binding people more closely to the living world around them. In the final season of Rowan's life, he passed his days in unhurried stillness, content with a cozy seat near his cottage window where he could hear the rolling waves. At dusk, the sky would bleed into shades of rose and lavender, eventually merging into the deep blues of night. On one particularly peaceful evening, a gentle breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the scent of sea salt and the distant murmur of the tide. Sensing the time was right, Rowan rose from his chair and stepped outside, leaning on a simple staff for support. He made his way slowly toward the shore, each step deliberate, each breath a tribute to the life he had shared with these waters. The moon hung low, a slender crescent in the sky, just as it was all those years ago when he first glimpsed the emerald flickers reaching the water's edge Rowan stood quietly, letting the tide wash over his shoes. He gazed out upon the endless stretch of water, soft moonlight dancing along the ripples. Then, across the distant horizon, he saw them, the gentle green lights, shimmering and pulsing like a silent heartbeat. Their glow was faint but unmistakable, a subtle sign that the sea's deeper mystery still thrived beneath the surface. He closed his eyes, letting the hush of the night envelop him. In that warm silence, Rowan's memories swirled before him in a comforting tide. He recalled all the evenings he spent gazing at these waters, the soft conversation he shared with the moon and the sea, the secrets revealed in emerald luminescence. A calm, abiding gratitude filled his heart. At length, Rowan turned away from the shore and walked back to his cottage, guided by moonlight. The night air was cool and sweet, the stars twinkling with gentle compassion. Inside, he settled into his bed, the gentle patter of waves echoing across the stillness. The fisherman closed his eyes, listening for that ancient lullaby, feeling a soft invitation to rest. In the embrace of that final dream, the boundary between the sea and his own soul melted. He drifted into a realm where every wave was a soothing caress, and every glimmer of green light was a star shining just for him. And so, in the hush of that night, Rowan found his lasting peace, woven forever into the gentle tapestry of the sea's enchantment. Yet those emerald lights remained, dancing beneath the waves, a hidden melody for travelers and dreamers willing to listen. Whenever the moon is thin and the breeze is mild, the Irish Sea still holds that ancient promise that if you slow your breath and open your heart, you may glimpse a glimmer of magic in the water's depths, an everlasting lullaby inviting you to rest. Now, dear one, let your eyes grow heavy. Sink further into the comfort of your warm blankets. Allow each breath to grow quieter, more effortless. Feel the relaxation pooling in your muscles, loosening every last strand of tension as the hush of this emerald coastline settles into your dreams. The story's gentle tide has carried you here, to the shore of peaceful slumber. Let the soft lull of the Irish Sea guide you deeper into rest, cradled by the promise of calm waters and shimmering lights. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.